Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Best Damn Pod in the Land. I am your host and sports director, Brian Nelson, and with me I have...
The one and only, back delivering for Amazon, which was my summer job last summer. But keeping social distancing at the same time, COVID-19, your assistant sports editor, Andy Anders.
You don't have to plug me up with a job, bro. I'm trying to work for Amazon too. But anyways, I'm your assistant sports director.
I got you, boy. I'll send you the link.
Say less.
All right.
Well, you have an NFL job. You don't need that Amazon gig.
Until that check starts coming in, I need all the money I can get.
And I'm your sports editor, Griffin Strom. Brian, what do we have for the people today?
We got a decent amount of stuff. For starters, I think the news that really started off this week was Luther Muhammad's transfer. We're going to dive into that and the ramifications that will have for the upcoming season for men's basketball. Gene Smith had a conference call today, so Griffin was on that, so we're going to cover what he said there because it has potential implications for whether football will be played for this fall. And then I think we're also going to continue just kind of running down and breaking down what various positions on the Ohio State football team will look like for next year, assuming a season is played. I think today we're going to cover offensive line and defensive line, so stay tuned for that. So I think we can start off with Andy's dead. Rip Andy. While we wait for Andy Anders, the one and only Andy Anders, to rejoin the Zoom, he's having Wi-Fi issues. Let's start talking about the Luther Muhammad transfer. Kind of a bit of a shock. I mean, I understand why he did it looking back on it, but still, he was a starter that got solid minutes.
What's so crazy about the whole Luther Muhammad transferring news is that, like, 2 days before he announced he was leaving, I was watching his Instagram live, and he was on with some guy from the Overtime, and the dude was talking about the state of Ohio State's basketball team's roster, and he was asking about DJ Carton, and Luther was like, "Yeah, he's gone, and so is Alonzo." And then the guy was like, "What's up with you?" He was like, "I'm here." He was like, I'm back, whatever. Tomorrow, next year is my year. So he was kind of talking in a manner that seemed like, oh, he's not going anywhere. He's coming back. Like, this is his time to shine, whatever. And then 2 days later, breaking news: Luther Muhammad is transferring.
Yeah,
it kind of caught me off guard, but I'm pretty sure it caught a lot of people off guard because nobody really saw that one coming.
Yeah, I mean, you could see Carton leaving the program based on his mental health issues and his extended leave of absence from the program, and with how little amount of playing time Alonzo Gaffney got, his transfer, well, I didn't really see coming, didn't shock me. But, Luther Muhammad was a starter, despite what a lot of us thought he shouldn't be because of his rough patch in like the middle of the season. But he still was a starter whenever he was playing. He got solid minutes. He was a great defender and was a pretty big part of the Ohio State basketball team. So,
yeah, it makes you think about that suspension mid-season when him and Dwayne Washington got suspended. Yeah. I believe it was the Nebraska game. It was just one game. But even the game before that, Luther almost played no minutes in the game before that too, which made me feel like there was something going on, that those things were connected.
Yeah.
You got suspended for a game. You definitely wonder, because that's kind of one of the only things you could see as being like, strange with him and the team.
Yeah. But the strange thing about that is like after that suspension, he started to play much better. And
right.
like not necessarily just defensively because his defensive play was stellar the entire season, but offensively he started scoring more consistently. He stopped taking like bad shots, and coincidentally, like not coincidentally, but like as his play started to, get better, so did the rest of the team. Like the team started to get hot, and he ended up joining again. So, I mean, I don't know. From what we've heard kind of reports, it sounds like he wanted a bigger role in the offense next year, and it seems like Chris Holtmann wasn't willing to give him that. So I kind of get it, but
I don't know.
Still strange.
There were so many things changing with the team in general. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't say that like Chris Holtmann would have any idea how things were going to shake out on offense with Caleb being gone, obviously DJ being gone. I almost wonder if Luther saw Seth Towns coming in as like a threat to his position on the team, maybe.
Yeah,
They're
that's kind
different
of what I was
positions.
thinking.
Yeah, but there's still
More
wings. I don't know. That's
I
just
feel like he saw Seth Towns as a threat to like his offensive touches. Because when Caleb left, it was like, all right, well, now Luther's role on the team kind of changes. He has more of an impact on offense. But with Seth Towns coming in, it's kind of like you're taking the backseat on the offensive side of the ball. That sounds kind of proven, but who maybe I don't know. I kind of have a feeling like I feel like when Luther came to Ohio State, he had this like envision of like, all right, year one and year two, this is how my season is gonna play out. This is how my career is gonna go, and maybe he just hasn't reached that point where he's seen much progression, and he's thinking to himself, I need a change of scenery to reach my NBA goals. So maybe he wanted just to transfer because some of the schools that he listed are kind of more basketball dominating schools than Ohio State is.
Mhm.
Even a school such as like Seton Hall, like they're not known for pretty much anything else besides basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like, so maybe that's kind of what he wanted, whether it's a smaller school with more of a basketball program or it's a bigger school with just a different opportunity. But
Yeah.
where did he list schools at? I must have missed that.
it's on his Instagram. It was like 8 schools. It was like UCLA, Seton Hall. Look right now.
Yeah, I didn't see that because
Yeah. While we wait for Andy to
I know his
rejoin
Twitter
again.
account. His Twitter
Yeah,
account is still like Go Bucks Blue or something like that. So
yeah, he posted 8 schools. It's Seton Hall, Auburn. Um, I'm pretty sure that's UNLV, Arizona State, Alabama, West Virginia, Georgia, and UCLA.
that is
And,
kind of a strange lineup.
That is a strange grouping, yeah.
and everyone's thinking that he's leaning towards Alabama because JQ, who is the other half of Jelly Fam or whatever, is his boy from Jersey, and he transferred to Alabama last year. So maybe they're planning on teaming up at Alabama, but yeah, I don't know. The list was kind of funny, but just a bunch of odd schools that I wouldn't really have thought of.
Yeah, kind of in the same vein with the basketball topic. I saw today that we initially thought that Alonzo Gaffney, he wasn't going to be transferring. From what we heard, reports was that he was looking to go pro in some manner. So, whether that be overseas, I doubt he was going to get drafted by in the NBA, but who knows? There's a lot of options these days, but
I saw him in a mock draft in the second round.
that's wild.
I saw him and DJ Carton.
Really?
That's wild. But yeah, go on.
But today we heard that his name has now popped up in the transfer portal. So, and it looks like he might have rethought things, and maybe he's looking for another NCAA landing spot now to stay in the college game for another year or so, which I think is probably good for his game. But at the same time, I don't know. There's just been so much roster turnover with basketball over in the last couple months. I mean, all the sports are shut down and everything, but there's been a ton of news in terms of Ohio State players coming and going. That Bucknell guard is the latest. Is he a grad transfer or just a transfer?
He's actually just a sit 1 year transfer like CJ Walker did.
Oh, right,
Yeah. He's going to sit a year.
His name is Jimmy Soto from Bucknell, and I saw a tweet that said during all this uncertainty with the roster turnover, one thing that Chris Holtman can guarantee is that he's going to have a veteran backcourt for at least the next 2 seasons. With this season, it's going to be CJ Walker and Dwayne Washington at the 1 and 2, and then the year after, it's going to be Jimmy Soto at the point and Dwayne Washington, if he stays, at the 2. So
yeah,
things play out. At least you'll have a backcourt.
Definitely the biggest implication or ramification of Luther Muhammad's transfer is the fact that Dwayne Washington's going to have to step up and be like a full-time starter now. And while he's definitely shown the flashes like he can produce at that level, last season he was very inconsistent for the most part.
Very interesting, but I feel like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like with Dwayne Washington, like his potential is so great as far as
Right.
scoring the ball.
Yeah.
I feel like the constant looking over his shoulder, like if he shoots one bad shot or if he has one like heat check, he was looking over his shoulder and Chris Holtman was like yanking him out the game. So if he does get this whole starting lineup role that's his, maybe he'll play a little more loosely to where he's able
Yeah.
to consistently get up shots and things like that and not have to look to the bench and see guys like DJ Carton and Luther Muhammad or whatever coming in to check him out, you know?
Yeah, it just depends on whether. Oh, hey, Andy, nice mask. It just depends on
I had to leave to
whether.
get the mask.
Yeah, let's see if your Wi-Fi works for more than 5 seconds.
He could
But,
easily be the leading scorer on the team next year too, because I mean
Yeah.
this year, like he was coming off the bench for most of the year, but he still was second on the team in scoring. You know, and with Caleb gone, and if he's going to be in the starting lineup now, you could see him getting up a lot of shots, especially when they're trying to figure out, you know, who the focal point on offense is with some of those new guys in the lineup this year.
Yeah.
Kind of the one guy that was the established scorer on the team last year in terms of who they're bringing back.
Yeah.
But I will say, in terms of losing Muhammad and Caleb Weston was so improved on defense this year, and then you lose Luther Muhammad, who might have been your best defender in general. That's a big loss on the defensive side of the ball. And I really don't know what type of defense a Seth Towns or a Justice Suing really plays, you know. So defensively, it might be a little different for Ohio State next year.
Yeah.
And what's crazy to think about is like if this wasn't CJ Walker's like second team in college so far, I have a feeling with all this turnover, like he would probably be gone too, because this team, like I feel like their entire core is just slowly like breaking up. But with someone like Kyle Young, who's been in this program and is loved by everyone, I think he's pretty much a lock to stay. And then CJ Walker, pretty much, I don't think he even can transfer out, so he's pretty much staying. Dwayne Washington, honestly, at this point, I don't know if he's going to stay with everyone that just keeps bouncing left and right this week and that week. But
I feel like he might
Almost
stay.
seems like there's something else going on with the team. Like
it seems
Yeah.
like
there's
not that Chris Holtman.
3 players transferring in 1 year is not normal. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, granted, it does seem like lately in the past couple of years there has been a move towards, you know, players are more willing to take a chance and transfer to a new school because the rules aren't as strict regarding that. And it's the same goes. It's not just basketball; it's football too. But still, 3 transfers in 1 year is a lot, especially when you're losing a lot of people. I mean, 3 starters for your starting lineup are now gone.
And what's so crazy is like every time Chris Holtman loses someone, he just adds another person. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like we don't know what is even going on. Maybe he just wants different personnel, whatnot. But it's definitely a strange time because like once somebody drops, another one he's picking up, whether it's a recruit or a transfer or whatnot. So it's interesting to see. Like I saw a tweet that somebody said like sooner or later Chris Holtman's going to be on the hot seat. I don't believe that to be the case because who knows? I don't know. It's a very tricky situation and it's hard to get any answers during a time where Chris Holtman's not talking to the media, so no one's able to even question the news.
I was just about to say, with these kind of sporadic conference calls you've been getting with whether it's Ryan Day or Mark Pantoni the other day, I think a lot of people are wondering what's going on with the program, and I think a lot of people would like to hear from Chris Holtman right now to kind of to ask, you know, what is going on and see what he has to say. And I even thought, transitioning a little bit here, I thought that might be a question that Gene Smith might get in passing today in the conference call that he did with the media earlier. I thought somebody might ask that, something about the basketball program. But no question about basketball. It was the Gene Smith teleconference today was mostly talking about the speculation surrounding what's going to happen with the college football season going into this fall. Because, you know, with new reports and whatnot coming out every day about the coronavirus and everything, it just seems more and more things just seem more and more up in the air in terms of the start of the season actually happening on time. And one thing Gene Smith was talking about is these guys can't just come back from, you know, not doing anything and then just immediately start the season. Even if the season was to start, when it's scheduled to in early September for Ohio State. You can't just throw those guys out there after not having a proper, time to reacclimate to the game and recondition and everything like that. So he was talking about that being one of the main things that his conversation with other Big Ten athletic directors and whatnot has been focused on is safety for the players. He said that he hasn't talked much about new models for the season, whether that be a short or things like that. But he talked about how hard because the players are all over the country right now, and there's different like stay-at-home orders state by state. It's not one federal stay-at-home order or anything like that. So some guys might be able, and we'll see what happens in a couple months, but maybe some guys will be able to travel when other guys aren't supposed to be traveling or whatever, which is going to make things harder to get everyone back on campus, and that's the first step you have to take in general. But I thought that one of the most interesting things that Gene Smith said today was because people have been talking about, playing games without fans in the stadium, right? Even President Drake was talking about that yesterday. But Gene Smith did not seem very keen on that idea of playing games without fans because he was saying if people think that it's not safe to have all the fans in the stadium, then that should probably mean that it's not safe for the players to be, interacting on the field either. So that was his. He seemed like he needed more convincing on that end before he could start entertaining those ideas.
Yeah, I saw some news from SEC coaches talking about playing like football just within the SEC without fans or whatever, and they're all pretty much everyone was kind of in unison saying that like they are not comfortable resuming college football, one, without fans, but also two, without a union decision. Like if the Big Ten decides not to play football like the SEC will, and the SEC is playing football, that's just weird for college football landscape.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's still uncertain, but honestly, I feel like with all the conversation that's going on right now, I feel like regarding football, we will not receive any answers until mid-summertime. Like, as late as that's going to be, like, right now is not a realistic timetable to be realistically thinking about, all right, are we going to start football on time? Or are we going to push things back? There's just so much time from now until the beginning of the football season, and you still have all of summer. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just say, hey, listen, like a couple weeks or a month before training camp begins, they go, hey, now we have a decision, Because by then you'll have a lot more answers about safety and things like that. You'll see if the curve has flattened and a lot of that stuff. So,
I mean, just in general, we should kind of have more of a definitive idea of where things are going to be, like at the end of this month. Because the month of April, like the news and Governor DeWine has really been emphasizing that this is the month where, you flatten the curve. And if numbers start to go down, then they'll continue to trend downwards. And the stay-at-home order will likely be lifted eventually, maybe sometime in May. We have no idea, really. But if things don't get better, if they continue to get worse, then chances are that stay-at-home order and things are just going to get extended into the summer. And if that happens, I definitely do not see the season starting on time, let alone how it impacts other sports.
This is just such, like, I don't think people like realize like how crazy of a time we're actually like living. Like, I feel like just imagine 10 years from now, like you're gonna forever remember the 2020 year of just coronavirus, where there was possibly no NBA finals, maybe no college football, no NFL. They like so many sports seasons are just like canceled. So many things are going, like, we're truly living in unprecedented times right now. It's crazy.
And that's why, like, the people, I know a lot of people that aren't like that engaged with sports, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when all these things started getting canceled, I was like trying to tell them, like, oh man, this is like serious. And they didn't believe me at the time, like right when everything was getting canceled, because they didn't care about the sporting side of it. So they didn't realize how significant it was that like March Madness is canceled for the first time, literally in its entire history, and stuff like that. But I just think it's interesting that initially when everything started closing down and when the NBA season got suspended and stuff like that, it was kind of like it felt like there was a hope that like, oh, it'll pick back up like maybe just in the summer or something. But now the fact that the college football season is so in question right now makes me think like, oh, there's not going to be like the NBA's, that's not going to happen. Like if they're talking about things in September not happening, like I feel like then the NBA is not going to come back in July or August. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know the MLB is like the main thing they're trying to figure out is if they can have a season like in like Arizona and Florida where they play spring training only and just have the players quarantine themselves away from their family for 4.5 months. That's how ridiculous this situation is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so what else was Gene Smith talking about today? Another couple interesting tidbits from that stuff. So obviously the coronavirus outbreak and everything has a massive financial impact on everything, right? So Gene Smith was talking about how the athletic department has like a $10.2 million like reserve that they have built up, like in case of any catastrophic event, you know, that it would continue to sustain itself from that reserve. Honestly, I'm kind of now that I'm really thinking about it, I'm surprised that that number is not a little bit bigger, just because of how much money they do generate. You know,
like did they say when it started?
No.
Okay.
Interesting.
But the coaches haven't taken any pay cuts yet, which is interesting to hear. But he said that there was like conversations about all this type of stuff, and he said there was conversations about how much money they stand to lose, you know, game by game if they didn't have games or if there weren't fans at the games. And I think I'm pretty sure he said it was like $4 or $5 million they make like every game on just people buying merchandise or people buying.
Well, Griffin, like you and I did like a full like article like last semester on just how much Ohio State makes off of like, you know, alcohol sales and concession sales, which numbers were ridiculous. They made like $1 million every season.
Right.
So like that alone, that's the lot of money.
Another thing that was kind of interesting was that I guess I didn't realize because I wasn't paying a ton of attention, but other schools around the Big Ten like chose not to extend eligibility for all their like spring sport athletes and stuff like that. Like Wisconsin, I think, didn't extend their eligibility, and I didn't realize. I kind of assumed that like schools like Ohio State, like these big D1 schools, would all just go ahead and do that. But apparently, around the Big Ten, there are schools that didn't do that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I heard like Wisconsin the story, and Wisconsin's wasn't it something about how like they've never done this in the history of the school or whatever, and they don't care. Like I forget the reasoning specifically, but it was something like so wild, and it made me go like, wow, that's such a messed up way to like think about it. And it's like, even though the NCAA is like allowing you to extend these scholarships, they're saying no, we don't care. If your season was canceled, you're out.
Like, yeah, that is wild.
Yeah,
I'm actually having one of our reporters look into that and contacting Wisconsin and doing a story about like breaking it down in the Big Ten, because I think that is really interesting.
I heard I think it was like Harvard or one of these Ivy League, like some of these Ivy League schools were doing that, but their reasoning I couldn't understand because they were saying we just can't grant an extra year of scholarship. I'm pretty sure they said and this includes like either medical or some other stuff as well. Like they won't extend your beyond your 4 years. And I can understand why, because it's like, all right, now you can pursue your graduate degree at an Ivy League school while you're still playing sports. It's not the fair equivalence. But for like a public school or like an Ohio State or Wisconsin, their reasoning, it was crazy to me. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I guess there was 70 seniors at Ohio State that had the option to return, and I guess 31 of them decided to return. So that was kind of interesting as well. So we got that breakdown.
Did some of them decline, or are they just like?
Yeah, so 39 of them decided to just move on.
That's crazy.
Strange.
Maybe I don't know. That's interesting.
It is really interesting, but I mean, if you've already like completed your degree, then life awaits.
It's like why why go through another year of school and in sports if you could easily be starting your career knowing that you're not going to the professional ranks or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Depends on the sport too. It's like
Yeah, it really depends on the sport.
there is a professional path that you can go to, and maybe it's not worth it staying in school for one more year.
I mean, for a sport like baseball, for example, it's much more valuable to get started in the minor leagues than stay in college. So,
Right.
like if you've already played like
probably,
if you've already been like at Ohio State for like 3 or 4 years, then there's not much else you can really gain from another year that you can't get in the minor leagues. And then other sports, it's probably similar tale. I don't know. It is very strange times we're living in right now.
Yep.
So
that's kind of all the newest sports stuff for this week, honestly.
Yeah, for once we don't have a ton of things to just cover, like bang, 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 like we had like the last couple of weeks. So, but Andy's been having a lot of technical issues this episode. So yeah. I don't know. And we kind of wanted him to go over the offensive line, defensive line, because he's a former lineman. So that's kind of his thing. Kind of take the reins on. Text him and see if he can rejoin again. If not, then maybe.
Yeah, we'll just do that next week.
Yeah, we can do that next week. Do we want to do another position, or do we just want to call it now?
What?
We've got a nice, short and sweet podcast this week. Just keep the people informed, and
yeah, just keep you guys all informed. Sounds good to me. All right, well, it might be shorter than you all expected, but I hope you still all enjoyed another episode of Best Damn Pod in the Land. Stay safe, practice social distancing, wash your hands, and stay tuned for next week when the internet hopefully lets us record a full episode. Have a great week. See ya.